The Settlers of Catan is what's known as a gateway game. It's often used to introduce people unfamiliar with the world of modern board games into these sorts of games. But in 2003, the Settlers of Catan was used for something very different, as what seems to be Mormon religious propaganda.
And one of the games that we decided to do is take Settlers of Catan and retheme it for the Mormon market, and we created a game called Settlers of Zarahemla.
That was Jeremy Young, a Mormon tech millionaire who licensed and published the game. In short, it was a commercial hit.
And we launched it and we sold probably 30 to 40,000 copies into Deseret Book over a couple years. It was our biggest hit.
This game didn't just do well for a Mormon game, it did well for a game. Especially in 2003, those sales numbers were top tier. And it was very similar to the Catan most of us know. Only, it added a temple that players could contribute to building with their extra resources. Other than that, the gameplay was exactly the same. The other differences were all cosmetic. The resource cards had prophets on them, and the box art depicted the ancient Native American city, the titular Zarahemla. See, Mormons believe that a group of Israelites migrated from Jerusalem to the Americas around 600 BC. This group of Israelites came to be known as the Nephites, founded a holy city in the Americas called Zarahemla. This game puts you into the shoes of the Nephites founding their holy city. The Settlers of Zarahemla still had you building roads, settlements, and other smaller cities within the walls of Zarahemla. Now, if that theme seems a little pasted on, it was. In Mormon culture, it was a trend to take secular pieces of pop culture and republish them with pasted on Mormon themes. The board game Carcassonne had a Mormon version too, the Ark of the Covenant, published by the same company. Trivial Pursuit also had a Mormon version. Celestial Pursuit, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, had Who Wants to Be a Celestial Heir. The popular book series Where's Waldo had a Mormon counterpart in I Spy a Nephite. There were Mormon movies, which were thinly veiled knockoffs of non-Mormon movies. In short, there was a full ecosystem of this. But I'm compelled to ask the question, why? Why did these exist? It's not like Where's Waldo isn't family friendly enough to begin with. And I'd say that's for a few reasons. For starters, every religious parent wants to indoctrinate their children into their religion, and religious toys and games is one of the most obvious ways to do that. But I think we can get a fuller answer if we dig deeper into the history of the Mormon Church. In the late 90s, the church was going through a reckoning. The young members of the church were leaving at an alarmingly high rate. Nearly 40% of Gen X members of the church were leaving, and more of them were simply not participating. As a reaction to that, the church published some anti-secular ideas. Satan works through entertainment and media. In order to keep yourself pure, you must avoid anything not family-friendly or anything that doesn't uplift you. And for many Mormons, that meant avoiding anything that wasn't explicitly Mormon. This is a tactic common in cults. To keep someone in the cult, you must isolate them from people outside the cult, demonize those people and how they live. And some families were very strict about it. Some children grew up without ever hearing anything but gospel music, unaware of the secular versions of the games and toys they played with. They created a bubble, and part of maintaining that bubble was games like the Settlers of Zarahemla. But that bubble was created partly due to happenstance. See, in Mormonism, there's an idea in the culture called prosperity gospel. And that's the idea that God will bless you with power and wealth if you are obedient and live as a good Mormon. And this idea being culturally prevalent leads to lots of business-minded Mormons. I think a strong piece of evidence for this is the proliferation of multi-level marketing within Mormon circles. There are over 70 MLMs in Utah, where the church is headquartered, making MLMs the second largest industry in that state. Being raised in the culture of Mormonism makes it easy for Mormon people to believe in the promises made by MLMs. Between prosperity gospel and the idea that you're chosen by God, it only makes sense to participate. It's actually been true for decades too. In 1988, a leader of the Mormon Church wrote a book about how members of the church are especially susceptible to materialism and get-rich-quick schemes. And this business-mindedness manifested in more ways than just MLMs. It also led to the Mormon knockoffs of secular things. It was an entrepreneurial pursuit that let Mormons stay in their bubble. The work was easy, the payoffs were often huge, and it scratched their desire for wealth in a way that still felt prudent. So to meet the demand of the families practicing anti-secular isolation, there was no shortage of entrepreneuring Mormons hoping to make some money off of it. Mormons were eager to consume these products and to produce them. Now, all the Mormon versions of secular things I mentioned earlier, they have a name: Mormon Kitch. A simple definition of kitsch is art or objects designed in poor taste, but appreciated anyways. When Mormon Kitch comes up, I think the Mormon action figures that are totally jacked, depicting characters from the Book of Mormon, are the first things that cross most people's minds. But if I wanted to explain Mormon Kitch, I'd say it's, in part, a result of Mormonism's weird relationship with art. See, there is no great Mormon art. Even going back to the 1890s, the Mormon Church sent out missionaries to train in Paris to become great artists, but that resulted in little success. The Church has commissioned art though, quite a lot of it. If you look at the Mormon gospel art, it's actually quite funny. Jesus and John the Baptist are depicted here as two mountain men in what's obviously the American West, not the rocky shores of Galilee. Both men are spot clean. There's no doubt who Jesus is. He's literally glowing. In another gospel painting, Jesus stands among American buttercups and bluebells, in a setting that could even be the shores of the Great Salt Lake. It's hard to find this art anything but middling, but the purpose wasn't to be great art. The purpose of Mormon gospel art is to give concrete depictions of the story. Oh, and debatably even more importantly, to sell prints, of course. See, these pieces are all sold in pretty massive numbers. Some gospel art will be found in most Mormon homes. It doesn't matter that it's not great art because it's a commodity. It's fully entered the realm of the kitsch. If you wanted to experience Catholic art, you'd journey to a church or a basilica, maybe even a museum or an art history book. But if you wanted to experience Mormon art, you could go into any Mormon home and find it hanging above the toaster or next to a TV. And it turns out, art in the Mormon world is fulfilling much the same purpose as the Settlers of Zarahemla. Yes, Zarahemla is a knockoff of the best-selling Euro game of all time. Yes, Mormons know that, but they don't care. Much like the prints of the gospel art, their purpose isn't to be great art. The purpose is to be kitsch. If great art is a nourishing meal, kitsch is junk food, easy to consume. There's a popular Mormon phrase, choose the right, the Mormon version of what would Jesus do. When you're constantly being told to choose the right, it can grow tiresome. But if the right is junk food, like the paraphernalia of Mormon Kitch, maybe consuming it will be easy. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe.
I'm Jake Frondorf, and this is Cardboard Mountain.